Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley, and welcome back to Norbury, the Church of St Mary and St Barlock. You can see in the background, now what you can see in the background of course is the nave and the tower, and the tower is also the church porch. This is a relatively unusual thing in the Middle Ages. It becomes quite common for the Victorians, very simply because for the Victorians you'll sometimes question, well, can we afford a tower? And if the tower is something that can be added on later, then that helps the cost. But that's not the case here. Originally, the tower stood proud of the building, and those chapels either side are later additions. The chancel is behind me, and behind this great big yew tree behind me. So let's have a look around the outside of this building. We'll also have a look at the manor house, which is owned by the National Trust, which is a good thing. It's not open to the public. Well, it is partly open to the public, but only on Saturdays. Is it Saturdays? Anyway, only briefly. So we'll have a look at that, have a look around. So join me. So here we are, St Mary's and St Barlock's, down in Norbury Hollow, and you can see why it's called Norbury Hollow. We are up. Next door is the manor house. You can see this grand front block. This is the main part of the manor house, and that is 17th century. But the block that is behind it, that is part of the original manor house, the original medieval house of the Fitzherberts. The huge yew tree that's quite common in churchyards, particularly ancient ones. The tower has its gargoyles on each side. As I say, originally, in fact, you can just about see there's a difference in the stonework between the tower and the chapels either side. And you see how the Fitzherberts would have been able to just so swiftly and so easily go between the manor house and the church. We'll actually start here at the east end. I know we normally walk around the west end first, but we'll change things up a bit and go around the east end first. This is, of course, as we've said in the previous video, the oldest part of the building. And there goes a squirrel off the yew tree. Squirrels in the yew tree. And this is the oldest part of the building. It's been modified. You can see actually how the roof line has been changed. Originally those buttresses and that string course marks the top of the walls, and then it's been extended upwards for the 15th century roof to be added. We pass around again. You have this lovely tower. You can just see the stonework there of the medieval manor house, and the tower basking in the January sunshine. Because I'm filming this in January, although it won't go out, I don't think, until February now. This massive east window, which would have been filled with medieval glass, not the glass in it at the moment, but different glass. Although we are in Norbury Hollow, the hollow goes down further down to the River Dove below. And here we have again these buttresses at the chancel and the north aisle. There's something evocative about an ancient graveyard in the morning light. It's not early morning, of course, it's January. Got to get out while we can, but in the morning light it's evocative here in the winter. The graveyard here has been used for many centuries. Most of the monuments, of course, are on the north side here are Victorian and later, because there's not a lot of space to bury people here, so it's only when they ran out in the main part of the graveyard they used to do that. Also, in the Middle Ages, there is this position that the north side is disfavoured. It's the side that's generally in shadow, and it was a side that was used for the burial of suicides and the illegitimate. We pass here to the modern graveyard, of course, at the west end, because small village though it is, it does fill up. And there we have the back of the manor house. The Fitzherberts lived here for hundreds of years. Oh, there we are, there's the River Dove down here in the valley. And beyond is the Peak District, beyond the hills. You can just see there at the end, there's a little dovecot, pigeon house. And here the west end of the church. There's a visible roof line here. Now that suggests that there would have been a wooden structure connecting, here we are, the bells, 11 o'clock. There would have been a wooden structure connecting the manor house and the church. And what this means, of course, for the Fitzherberts is that they could go to church without getting wet when it was raining, and they could keep fairly warm if it was cold. It was good to be the lord of the manor. Now as we pass around here, we can see, well, we can't see very much of the sun, but you can just see here the windows of the hall. Those pointed windows in this stone block. And it's a reminder of the high status of this building, because you can't tell the high status from the churchyard side, but you can hear from the manor house courtyard. And there again, the tower that lifts its pinnacles high above the church, the manor house. But church and manor beside each other, this is a very, very, very common thing in the Middle Ages. The church and the manor house stand together, and on a very basic level, the reason for it is simply that it's very often the best site in the village, but also it's very often it's the lord of the manor who builds the church. So he's paying for the building, and of course then he gets to decide where to put it, and he gets to put it next to his house. Here we look up and you can see these gargoyles there, true gargoyles. You've got here this window with its little faces around and roses around the top, and the same with the other chapel here. You can see here this is the porch as well as being the tower. It contains everything a tower needs to, the bells, the ringing chamber, etc. And here we have the war memorial in the form of a Saxon cross. This hall block, as I say, is all that survives of the medieval manor house. And it's all that survives because the family remained here for many generations, and so they rebuilt the manor house as styles changed. Now it's owned by the National Trust today, and it can be hired as a holiday let. But there we are, that's St Mary's and St Barlock's Church, Norbury in Derbyshire, just over the border from Staffordshire. Back up here. There we are. Just try and get the whole church in. So I'll just say a few words and then end this video. Drink. And so there we are, St Mary's and St Barlock's, this church, this magnificent church of the Fitzherberts, standing next to their beautiful old manor house. It speaks of a vanished world, the world of medieval England. A world that, of course, we can romanticise because we don't live in it. It was a gracious world for the rich, not so much for the peasants, although at least the lord lived in the midst of the village and not a long way away when no one could contact him. But here we are, a memorial, but more than a memorial, a living place of worship, still used today, not simply a museum, but a church, and a building ultimately to the glory of Almighty God. It speaks of the ways of doing things that aren't ours anymore. It speaks of the Middle Ages, of the Reformation, and most of all of England. An England of faith, an England where the church was important in its own way. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you. And as the COVID concerns disappear into our rear mirror, we hope, now is a good time to get out and look at buildings like this, to visit our heritage, to show our appreciation, and to enjoy the beauty of the English countryside. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you.